animals of war. Wolves don't patrol on moonless nights. Wolves don't patrol in fear of green lights. But horses still fear the wolf and bolt. But horses still fear the thought of revolt. When green eyes peer through the sight, when green eyes appear ready to fight, the wolves will sleep forevermore. The wolves lay dead upon the floor. Horses ride on, unaware of the deed. Horses ride on, unaware they are free.
Right, hello everybody. Welcome back to Blue Pink Podcast. Today I'm joined by Ross. He's a former Royal Marine, used to do private security, and now he's a veterinarian. Ross, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Very well. Happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. If you don't mind then, Ross, if you could give yourself a introduction and introduce you to the listeners.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm Ross Neethling. I'm 42 now. I left the Royal Marines. I only did a 6-year career, but I left a long time ago now, end of 2008. I ended up just by luck. I mean, I could probably write a book in the story, but ended up in vet school pretty much immediately after leaving the forces, which wasn't part of my plan, by the way, at all. So yeah, I spent 7 years at vet school, took a little bit of time out to do some private security stuff to find my way through. And yeah, since then I've just been grafting away, trying to build a little career and skills and things in veterinary, and making a little home here in Cardiff.
So you're from South Africa, is that right?
Yeah. I kind of missed that detail. Yeah, I left South Africa when I was 21 to come and join the Corps. Otherwise, to be honest, I would never have come. It's the only reason I came. And I had full intentions of going back there, but you know how life goes, it's twists and turns.
What gave you that drive to, leave your home country, move to the UK and join a unit, an elite unit, something that's quite hard to get into? What drove you to that?
I think that was part of it. There's a few factors, if I remember back. So one of which was the fact that, it's an elite unit, and if I was going to leave home and do something like that, jump ship, it was going to have to be for something big and something good, something really exciting. I think actually as a young man, I was pretty immature back in at that age. For my age, relatively speaking, I tried to go to university and then sort of engage in tertiary studies and things full time, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, which was a shock. I'd done pretty well at school, and I'd always thought I'd just go to university and do something like engineering, breeze through that, job, kids, whatever. And I very, very quickly found out that that wasn't for me, and I wasn't handling it very well. I was really, really unsettled. I just had a fire burning in me that wouldn't let me settle and sit and study. So I had a good friend, actually, still a very good friend of mine, who had taken a gap year in Britain and was going to come and join 7 Para. And he was on at me, why don't I join the army, join the British Army? And I went, nah, mate, it's not for me. But I started, the seed was planted, and I started looking. Jumped on the internet, saw the Royal Marines, and I thought, right, these are my guys. This is for me. And I really very quickly just had this indescribable passion and a pull, and I thought, I have to do this. I really got to do it. And it was a long, laborious process to try and get in and get accepted and whatnot. But once I had actually attended the selection process and thankfully made it through, there was no stopping me. It was just there was a real drive there, and I would have done anything to do it. So I was actually very happy to leave home. It was an easy decision, but a difficult thing to do, if that makes sense. But it was a no-brainer decision.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So the same question probably then, to go for becoming a veterinarian and go through that.
Yeah, that's a different answer. Same question, but different answer. There was a drive, and a similar kind of drive, in as much as if I'm going to leave this great organization that really has suited me down to ground, and if I'm honest, to that point, and I think still to this day was the only place that really fitted in, as I feel. If I was going to leave, it's got to be for something good, big, respectable, respectful, etc., and something that's worth it. That was the drive. The drive wasn't veterinary. You know, this is a bit of an unpopular answer, but I seek the truth and I speak the truth. So I haven't always wanted to be a vet. It hasn't been my passion at all. It's kind of something that happened. I wouldn't say I fell into it, because I had to move mountains to get in. But the reason I moved mountains wasn't passion for veterinary. It was passion to do something that I thought at the time was going to be good, great, whatever. And yes, to make sure that leaving the Marines was for something worthwhile. That was my drive. So yeah, to go back a bit, I guess when you get your 12 months notice to leave, the clock starts ticking, and I was very cognizant of that. And I thought, I have to figure something out. Default plan, go back to South Africa, and then I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm just going to get back there and enjoy the beach for a while. Nah, shit, I've got to have a solid plan. So I started investigating or looking into all manner of career options. I mean, although I wasn't very creative, you know, I was kind of limited to the traditional careers that we've probably all told about as kids, you know, car mechanic, solicitor, banker, doctor, what have you. But I spent a lot of time researching and looking these things up. And veterinary was one of the ideas. I've always had an affinity for animals, always loved animals, as many of us do. Always found it pretty interesting. And I started looking into it, dentistry as well, human medicine. Even started studying a couple of modules through the OU. Nothing to do with veterinary, just to keep the brain going. And yeah, well, there's a lot of detail. I could spend hours telling the story, but long story short, ironically, the vet school I graduated from, Bristol University, I remember the conversation clearly on the phone, said to me, don't bother applying. We don't want your application. There's 100 cream of the crop A-level students for every one place. And word for word, verbatim, speaking to you, we don't want your application and we're not going to process it. Please don't apply. And
that give you drive. That give you even more drive.
Really pissed me off. Really pissed me off. I was raging, and I thought, right, you guys are fucking getting it now. That's it. I will now cut off my nose, spite my face, and I will do whatever I have to do to get into this vet school. That's it. Buttons pushed. And so now going to like college or night school, whatever I've got to do. And I'm going to stay in Britain now, and I've moved all sorts of mountains to get there. I had to organize to leave the Corps early, all sorts of references. There was international fees to contend with, a whole bunch of admin to get done. But I got all that stuff done bit by bit with help from some good people. And as often happens, you know, they say like luck is where opportunity meets preparation, or vice versa, what have you. And so I was banging on these doors of the vet schools, all of them now, but particularly at Bristol. And just by luck, they basically started a foundation degree just that year as an experiment. And the lady said, look, you're probably not going to get in because you don't have exactly what we're looking for. The course is not aimed at people like you, but if you apply through the correct channels, I'll give you a chance and I'll consider your application. And that's all I wanted. That was cool. So I put together an application. Next thing, I got an interview, which I thought I'm happy with. That's end of the road for me. I'll never get through the interview, but I'm really pleased that they let me attend. I think that's fair. And I'm very happy to leave it now. End of mission. Got to the interview, had a chat like we're doing now. Next thing, interview was over. And I thought, it's weird. Oh, well, that's cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. About 10 minutes down the road, driving back to Plymouth, back to 42, where I was still based, the phone goes and goes, hey, do you want a place in vet school? My head is still spinning to this day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't part of the plan. And I often feel a bit of guilt that I got in through the back door, so to speak. Because, you know, there's people who've wanted their whole lives to be vets. And, you know, since they're 12 or 13, have been choosing the right subject at school and getting in to see experience and all this kind of thing. And I did none of that, none of it. It was almost a last minute thing, which is unheard of. But you know what? There was a lot of graft involved, a hell of a lot of graft and a lot of effort involved. But yeah, my head's still spinning. So it definitely wasn't a lifelong plan. And when I put my notice in to leave the Corps, it was not on the cards. I still honestly think like, how the hell have I ended up being a vet, right? This is crazy.
No, it's like that thing you just said about preparation and opportunity, you know, is what you need to put in you need to seek opportunities and put in the preparation in order to be successful. You made some good points there. One of them being about the drive to want to do something successful. And I know I've got maybe, I've not got a long career left in my career now, and I'll time out in the next few years. And it will be that same thing for me, I believe, that drive and want to do something else that's high end. You don't just, you obviously, people with ex-forces, they either make it and become a real success story, but then you also hear of the ones that, go the other way in the complete opposite, the unsuccessful stories. But
no, it's terrible seeing that. It really bugs me seeing that kind of thing.
Yeah, especially when they were once so glorious. And they've still got that in them. They've just, a lot of people that have become homeless after being in the forces, they've still got that drive in them. They've just got to refine it. It's part of who they were once. The other good point you made as well was about education. You were talking about before you joined the Corps and you were going through university, college, and whatever. And I feel like I'm in the same sort of zone now, whereas I didn't feel when I was at school as a young lad that I was ready to be educated then. Whereas now I'm an older, 36 now, and I feel that I'm now ready to learn.
Good.
So
it comes later, I think, for some of us.
Yeah, people can sometimes sell themselves short because they didn't get good GCSEs or they didn't get good, A levels or whatever. But then it's probably because they wasn't ready to learn at that time. But
that's exactly it. Honestly, it's another thing that upsets me when I see people do that. Oh, I'm not very smart and I didn't do well at school, and they let that define themselves and their ability, and immediately puts a ceiling on them. I remember back, I've made a very good friend through that. Via social media, but the guy is my genuine friend now to this day, and it was somebody who I was just following on Instagram, an ex-bootneck, and I saw him post. I've never had any communication with the guy. I saw him post something. This is going back maybe 2-3 years, something to that effect that he's limited by, he didn't do well at school, etc., and it's really put a limit on his thing. And I actually, it pissed me off, not with him, but with that sort of constraint that we're all led to believe. And so I sent him a message immediately, and I said, look, dude, you don't know me, but I disagree with what you're saying. It's absolute bullshit. I'm kind of almost not calling you out on it, but I just want to tell you that you're not restrained or constrained by this kind of thing at all. And it's not me that inspired him. I'm not trying to insinuate that at all, but actually he realized that, and he's now entering university to do an undergrad degree and his ambition is to get a PhD actually. So, and I hope he does. I believe he certainly can do that. But yeah, it's something that really bugs me. People thinking that they didn't do well in school by this, traditionally defined parameters, and therefore they can't achieve X, Y, or Z. It's not true.
Yeah, what I think is true is when you surround yourself with people that are driven, you're likely to become more driven. Sure. And if you surround yourself by, so when I was growing up, I was told I had dyslexia, so I just put that down to I can't learn this, I can't learn that because I'm dyslexic. Whereas it actually later now in life, I look at dyslexia in a completely different way. That I think that I may be able to think differently to other people outside the box type thinking. Creative type thinking, which is like what you've done with your friend there. You've said that he's not prepared, he's not ready for education, or he's never going to be ready or prepared for it. And then you've injected that. So you've surrounded or given him a person that he needed at the time to escalate who he is.
We can all do that, honestly.
So I was looking at your Instagram, going through to make sure you've got some good content on there. Seeing your PT stuff, your phys, you're massively into your phys. You did a stand-up paddleboard. Is it a triathlon type thing?
Yeah. That was just a bit of a off the cuff kind of thing. I was looking for. I've recently got into stand-up paddleboarding, and details of how and why are irrelevant to this conversation. But I've came to know about stand-up paddleboard racing. It's a whole kind of little fraternity. And it's quite interesting. So I've started trying to get into it. I've never done a race. I will do one. I actually potentially have one on Saturday. But yeah, I was looking around. I hadn't done any fizz events for a couple of years. I used to be really heavy into triathlon, and I wanted to just do something, some sort of event. So I found this one down in Cornwall, really cool. So I did that. But yeah, I'm sure it's the same with all of us. I'm going to sit here and go, oh, well, I don't really have the time to do as much fizz as I want, and I'm not quite as fit as that old thing. And that is true. And, I won't waste both our time telling you that. But yeah, that's the case. I'm big into fizz. I love it. I don't just love the outcome. I genuinely love training. I honestly really love going out and running in the rain or paddling on the river when it's howling wind and horrible and it's gray and nobody's there. I enjoy that, man. I enjoy. I'm renovating my house. I don't have any weights in here. I'll stick my feet on like the windowsill that's got rubble and rocks on it and balance and do some weird push-ups. I enjoy all that stuff. It's good for me. It's my medicine.
That's awesome. I saw as well. You seem to spend a lot of time outdoorsy. Outdoorsy type person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you spend a lot of time camping and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah,
wild
I do. It's almost always wild camping, to be honest with you. And I always take my buddy, my little boy, with me. He loves it, which I'm really grateful for. So, yeah, half the reason, the motivation is for him, but there is an element of reward for myself as well when I take him out. Because we can make a choice, can't we? We can happily sit inside. It's easier, way easier for me to put the TV on for him and do that kind of thing. But I get a huge reward from being outside, and I need it. It's still that probably that unsettled element to me. Unsettled is probably not a fair word, but that drive to join the corps, and the reason that I couldn't sit in the classroom way back when. There's still some of that in me now. There always will be. I hope there always is. But yeah, I'm always outside, and it's literally like rain or shine. It doesn't matter. People always make the tongue-in-cheek comment, oh, you came from South Africa to Wales or Britain. Why'd you do that? The sunshine, everything. It doesn't matter. It's not irrelevant. I love the sunshine, but it's irrelevant whether it's raining or windy. It doesn't matter. If I'm going out, we're going out. But yeah, a lot of time camping in the woods at any opportunity.
Yeah, one of the ones I was watching, you did a post and you'd mentioned about happiness in the valley. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's it's not my quote. I heard it somewhere. I don't remember where, and I think it's from the climbing community, and it stems from them. I guess people go on these expeditions, whether it's climbing, trekking, what have you, and the summit is the goal, right? And that's your happiness. The same as going on holiday. You're living for the holiday, you're living for the weekend, and so for that saying, the happiness is those moments when you summit, but not before, when you sat in the valley in your tent waiting for a weather window and you're climbing up and going back down and it's a failed attempt and all this kind of thing. You're not happy. But that's our daily lives, right? So Monday to Thursday and Friday is the valley generally. Our summit starts maybe Friday evening, or if you're in the forces, Friday at 10 a.m. And you're knocking off. But, is that how we're going to live? Come on, we can still find some happiness in the valley on a Tuesday night in the wintertime. You finish work at 7 p.m. It's a pretty grim scenario, huh? Like, if I could get home and cook dinner and everything, you can still try and find some happiness there. Yeah, same as going outside. It's that weather's shitty. What am I going to do? I live in South Wales, man. I'm going to wait until May to get good weather? Nah, I'm going to go out. Doesn't matter. You can stick a bivvy up or take a beer out or do whatever. It's fine. We don't have to wait for it. We can try and create it. It's not easy all the time. It's easy in a physical environment, but emotionally, mentally, it's of course a little bit more challenging sometimes when we're having darker times. But you can create it. But it takes effort, but it's there.
Yeah, if you can be happiest in the direst situations. So I'm up here in Scotland. I've been here for a year, and it's taken me a bit of time to adjust. I was on the East Anglia, the east coast of England before, where it was, it's quite a dry area. Yeah. And then I come up to Scotland and it's wet, raining, cold. Even through the summer, it's not that great. And it is a bit tough, but it's one of those things you have to make do with your situations. It's like stoicism in it. You've got to be grateful for what's internal to you and what gives you happiness before you put your happiness on the weather, or you put your happiness on what you own and this sort of thing.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention gratitude when you said, if you can be happy in those slightly less attractive scenarios, how much happier you're going to be when the sun does shine. And that's so true. Like, I've actually got out of the practice now, but gratitude, now I don't want to sit here sprouting off cliche stuff from other people and other podcasts and whatnot, but this is genuine for me. Gratitude is a massive, massive thing for me personally. It really is. And I've felt it and I've lived it. I've got out of the practice now, I will say. So A, I'm rusty on it, and B, I can feel the effects of not practicing it. And when I mean practicing it, I mean practicing as in repeating it, consciously going out of my way to find it and do it. I don't just mean doing it. But yeah, I found with gratitude, the more trivial and minor the things you can authentically, this is the key. It has to be, you're not lying to yourself. You are truly grateful for it. If you can find that, practice that gratitude in these more mundane, trivial things, you're so much more grateful and aware of the things that really are better, you know. So the obvious things are, oh, my health and my family and this kind of thing. Yeah, fine. But actually, if you can just be grateful, honestly, like for having a mug that's not chipped or cracked, which I am, because I've been living in crap here for ages. I've just opened this box of mugs. You know, if you can be grateful for something like that, how much more grateful are you going to be for other stuff? And when you do reach the summit, you know, when your little child comes through the door smiling from school or what have you. And for your health and things. Yeah,
I'm trying to teach this to my kids and my family, who want, they just want endless amounts of toys. And like, if you've got loads of toys, for example, this is just going off on a spat right here. If you've got loads of toys,
I feel you.
you can only spread the love of your toys. You've got to spread it over all your toys. If you've got a couple of toys, you're going to really love those toys. And it's the same with all your stuff and all your things you do. You've got to appreciate what you've got and not collect more stuff, because it lessens the value of the things around you.
That's a poignant. No, that's a really, really good point. And as you've said that, I've actually just realized that about myself in that moment while you were talking. It's a really good point. I'm going to take that away. So I've always had I wouldn't call it a problem, but in retrospect, I think it is problematic. And I think a lot of us, similar people, are the same. Not really in possession so much, but in achievements, goals. You set your mind on a goal, you give it all your love and attention, you achieve it, and almost immediately, it's forgotten. Like, there's no self-congratulations or reflection on it. It's just, right, what's next? I want more, I want more, I want more. I can do more, I can run further, I can achieve more, I can get another qualification, and so on and so on. And actually then you foregoing your appreciation of those in the moment things that you have, always for looking for more stuff. I guess that's a similar analogy, wanting more toys. Like, hang on, what about this one? And my little boy's the same. Buy him a toy, and like the next day, no, you never buy me toys. I want a new one. Like, dude, you've forgotten about that one already. But yeah, the penny just dropped when you said that. Actually, I'm guilty of the same thing. I have been, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all are. Today's society kind of makes us that way. They've got today's society's got us down to a T with nice, shiny, bright lights and colourful toys. You know, they know what we want and what the human nature is after.
Psychology of marketing's on point.
Yeah. So let's talk more about your veterinary side of stuff. What's one misconception about vets and veterinaries that you'd share?
There's a lot, but probably the most immediate one is, oh, you're working with animals and it's like you get to love animals all day. No, you don't get to do that. It's very rare. You don't get to do that. That's not it's so a lot of the time people think you're just working with these animals. You're actually working with their owners all the time. Yeah. So people think you're working with animals. I mean, it really is a people. You've got to be a people person to be a decent vet. You really do. So there's the art and the science of veterinary. Science is what it is. That's your brain and studying and all that stuff. I'd say that's probably max 50% of it, of being what people perceive a good vet, the public's perception anyway. So yeah, it's a misconception that you just focused on animals. You actually probably more so focused on their owners and the wide array of emotionally charged people that come through the door. Some of them aggressive, some of them just upset, some of them just plain barking mad, no pun intended. Others like super nice people.
The cat ladies.
Yeah,
the cat ladies. Thousands of cats.
yeah, there are plenty of them, eh?
One of the pictures I seen that you post was of an animal. I'm not sure if it was a dog or a cat that had a few face masks inside of it in its body. Is that something you've seen a lot of? COVID masks?
Yeah. I mean, face masks. Yeah, I don't remember. Probably several. Yeah, all sorts of things. All sorts of things. Yeah, some like quite compromising foreign material and objects eaten by dogs that you end up fishing out. But yeah, quite a few face masks, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Does it become? Do you become numb to the pain of animals and
completely?
you know, you get you probably see a lot of and put down, you know, a fair few animals in your time, and I imagine that some vets do join, you know, become a vet because they love animals, and that must have an effect psychologically on that part of you.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I'll call it adapting, and I think it's a good adaptation, but the numbing pretty quickly. I think because of past career and I was a bit older. And I think being male does help a little bit with that. Stereotypes aside, just as a generalization, when we get super offended. But yeah, I've adapted pretty quickly. But yes, there are a large portion of vets who even many years into their career will still be quite affected by that. But I've become pretty numb, but I'd like to think it's a healthy balance. I was actually having this conversation to someone the other day. For me, it's the ultimate professionalism. So when you're at work doing that job, faced with the case, whatever it is, that's your focus 110%, and you will do your best. Why you do your best doesn't really matter. Are you motivated to be professional? Are you motivated to look good? Are you motivated to do a good job? Are you motivated to help the patient? It's irrelevant as long as you genuinely are doing your very best with the resources you've got and everything you've got. That's fine. So when I'm there, and for me, it's a bit of all of those factors anyway, but I will do my best. When the time comes to go home or push the button or put the animal down, I wouldn't say I feel nothing, but I feel reasonably satisfied in most cases that that's what we have to do. And that's what we're going to do. And you've got two options, as with anything else in life. You can either resist it and try and fight against it, or you can accept it. And if you've truly done your best and explored all options, and that's the best decision, there's no point fighting it. Because if you're fighting it and you still believe there's some fight to give, it means you haven't done your best previously, right? And there's still more you can do. But then do more. Don't go with the other option. So I can accept it pretty quickly, and I on purpose just, you know, flick that switch. You know, and these animals mean the world to people. You know, people end up actually sometimes with quite significant mental health issues after the animals die or are put down. Really, I've seen a really worst case scenario actually not that long ago to practice I work at, as in worst case scenario.
Okay, I get what you mean.
After the dog died. And you know, anything from just a few tears to looking completely stoic right up to there, you see that whole spectrum, and then you kind of just need to stand there and deal with it and be professional, but also empathetic and do it. But yeah, there's definitely a numbness which is a help, because I have seen a lot of people that struggle with that side of things. Yeah, and it's not helpful.
I've got that coming up, I believe. So I've got a German Shepherd. He's 13 years old. He's got obviously bad arthritis in his hips. He's just been diagnosed with vestibular disease, and he's likely that, or he had a stroke. So he's probably going to be.
Yeah, sorry, man. That's really tough.
When we got him diagnosed just the other day, we walked into the vet, and everyone in there were bawling their eyes out. The receptionists, the owners, the vet, and I was like, oh yeah, Christ, what's going on here? And then that's coming up for us. But
sorry, man, it's really difficult. I think it's easy to underestimate the significance and the effect of it, and particularly in those moments, in that 15-20 minutes, half an hour. It's you know, I don't know if you've been through it before, but it's. I see people enter a different world for that time. Yeah, it's really painful.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not sure how I'll feel about it, but it's one of those, like you say, you don't know how you're going to react until it happens.
No, you don't. Yeah, I've seen, little children come in there not really bothered, and then seen grown men literally on the floor, just completely gone, wiped out.
Yeah.
It depends. There's no right or wrong way of responding. I think I just tell people, for what it's worth, please try to ignore me here. And I just cannot stand the thought of people masking their emotion or not being able to express their internal environment just because I'm there. How awful is that?
Yeah.
I'm only there because you really need me to be there. Otherwise, you wouldn't want me here. So just try and ignore me. I'm going to do this quickly and quietly. And as soon as it's done, I'm going to disappear. Just because, I think guys really just need to try and let it all out there. And if that's how it is, rather than try and hold it in, terrible. Yeah.
Has being a vet affected your thought processing in having pets of your own, or do you have pets?
Yeah, massively. It has, actually. It's quite sad, but this is another unpopular truth of mine. I have got a pet. I've got a cat, and I got him just, I don't know, probably just before I went into vet school, while I was leaving the Corps, that kind of thing. So I've had him about 15 years. He's pretty easy to look after. Like, I swear at him and shout at him on a daily basis just for a laugh. But he's a pretty good guy and a good companion. He's been with me through thick and thin. But yes, it has. It is kind of sad. It doesn't bother me, but it's a little bit sad when you tell people. It's mostly when I see animals, I see the science and I see the problems. Even like a happy, if you bought a puppy and showed me, oh, that's really cool for you. I understand, what it's going to add to your life and the joy you're going to get. But for me, I just see potential problems. I see bills, I see disease, I see illness and that kind of thing. It doesn't make me upset or sad, but it's kind of put me off having a dog. Also, I don't have the time to justify. I do have time, but pet ownership and care for me right now in my current state is not priority enough to warrant buying one and putting the time in and walking them and that kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
I feel pretty bad, actually, because I grew up with dogs and pets all my life, and I'm depriving my son of that, apart from the cat. So I do have a constant debate with myself. In fact, I put it to one of my friends, a good friend, she's a nurse, the other day, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about getting a dog again. Like, dude, are you mad? And then I went through all the breeds. I was like, well, I could get her this or I could get her that. And she was like, no, that's why you don't get that one or that one, that one. And I thought, bloody hell, man. Yeah, back to not having a dog again. But I cycle through the process. I would like to have one. I think someday I will get one, but maybe only in a couple of years. But yeah, it does. It has changed it for me personally. Some vets are the other way around. They've got they rescue everything, got hundreds of animals.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a time commitment there.
Talk about what's the highlights of each career? As a Royal Marine and as a vet.
I think, unsurprisingly, the highlight of of my service in the Marines was, genuinely the Herrick tour. I only did one. Low light, highlights, all in the same thing. It was pretty good. I feel very fortunate and lucky for many different reasons having done that. And then I think probably the highlight is a bit less clear of veterinary. There definitely is not a single standalone event or short time period that I can say it highlights it, because I hope things will continue to get better. But so far, honestly, the highlight for me is realizing that I can actually sustainably stay in this career rather than leaving like a lot of us have done and will continue to do. It's a whole nother discussion, but there's an enormous attrition rate in veterinary right now, and has been for a while, and will continue to be for a little while anyway, until things change, if they do. And it was a real problem, and it was probably about at least 2-3 years periods. I wouldn't call it dark, but quite a worrying period for me personally, where I was desperate to leave veterinary and think of something else to do. And I just stuck it out, and I figured out that I can do it. And it's not the science part. Remember, I spoke earlier, there's a science and an art. The art mainly being dealing with people, which is the biggest challenge. And I've kind of got that figured out now, how I deal with people. I don't just mean the communication factor, but how I deal with the way that I end up feeling after certain interactions and certain scenarios and things, and how I can manage myself and my responses to that, how I can improve my stoicism in regard to that. So it's not really a clinical highlight at all. It's more a personal one where I thought, actually, yes, the hard work and sacrifice that I've done to get to veterinary, I can actually continue it and make this a good career path for me. Clinically, the highlight probably was getting an ophthalmology certificate, and probably doesn't mean much to many people, but it is quite a significant thing. Not many people have one in the area I live and work in. It's like a 4-year, cost me about 15-20 grand to get it, and many hundreds of hours of studying and being up in the loft at 5 a.m. preparing for exams and whatnot. And so that was a pretty cool thing. It's a good bit of leverage. It was a good significant upskill. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's probably the fact that I've realized that I can continue in my career in an immensely and emotionally sustainable way. I can hopefully see it through to the end.
Yeah, that's some really good points that I think you've talked about there, especially you have to be a people person to be a vet, because I was looking at, when I leave the forces, to join the police.
Okay, cool.
And then I realized that I don't want to be surrounded by not only drama and trauma possibly, and dealing with people. Like I do the podcast, I talk to people and stuff like that, but I normally talk to people that are quite well mannered. And, I imagine you probably get some people that are poor mannered in the vet.
For sure. Yeah. Very common. Every day. Yeah. And there's some days, honestly, you leave there thinking, oh God, this is just can't cope. Yeah.
Yeah. The other good point that you made was about your highlight in the Marines was being on operational tour. Why do you think that is?
I think because it allowed us to, I was going to say showcase, definitely not the right word, but to utilize the skills and things that we are trained for, and to kind of focus our efforts on something real, and again, hold a discussion of the whys and whether it's worth it or not, but that at that point seemed worthwhile and valuable. And yeah, it was a combination of years of effort and training and whatnot gone into that. Plus, for me, equally was experiences that money just is not going to buy and get anywhere else in any other environment. Seeing parts of a country that people really aren't going to be able to pay any amount of money to go in and see. So it's just kind of the uniqueness of it, I think. And the value of that unique experience that we were unlikely to get at any other time, at any other place.
Yeah, I was listening to the Theo Von podcast. Shout out to Theo Von podcast, and he was doing an interview where he talked to a former American Special Forces guy about that. And he asked the question, "Do you miss war?" And his response was yes, because when you're in war, you give every ounce of you, all your concentration, what your diet, your hydration, your sleep. Everything that you do is dedicated towards the mission and the outcome of that mission. And through that 6 months, or for the Americans, a year, you're so driven and dedicated, and it's hard to find that replicated anywhere else in the world. When you're the mistakes that you could make or the lack of preparation that you don't put in could mean the death of yourself or your friend. So you're so driven to get the job done correctly.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point. I suppose you could almost say it was for an extended period you're in that state of flow, often, not all the time, right? But that laser focus that's required and is absolutely mandatory for everybody for as many moments as you can muster is a very unique thing, because we don't need to do that in day-to-day life. We need to focus for half an hour or maybe hour and a half here and there. It might be 12 hours of real focus and so on. And trying to get that all right, with the consequences being, it's the end of the road for you if you don't get it right, or it could be if you do get it right. But yeah, it's a really good point, to focus and focus.
I'm just thinking now, like, and imagining if you was to put that same focus and drive into every other project that you do in your life now, how successful you could be. And some people are that way inclined, and some people are that driven. Maybe I just need to find the energy myself.
No, it's a really good point. It's really flipping Chad. I'm a bit embarrassed to show you this, but I recently bought this. So it's just a Core Colors wristband, right? Paracord Chad cheesy thing. And I did it for a very specific purpose. And I don't wear it all the time, but I wear it purely to remind me to do just that. And that I am capable of more and of better, and to hold myself to a higher standard, essentially, and to focus more. I've had a lot going on recently. Personally, the year hasn't been very good, but I've also been trying to renovate this house with my son and changing jobs and figuring a whole lot of stuff out. And point is, I found motivation is very quickly being waxing and waning more than anything else. And I've really been battling to motivate myself for things, sometimes even fizz, which for me is an alarm bell. And then I think back and I think, look, it might have been X number of years ago, but you are capable of more and you're capable of better. Start focusing and start remembering what you want to achieve, and that it is going to take work, and either accept that it's going to take work and focus on it, or forget about it and just accept that you're a lazy bum. And I'm not a lazy bum. I'm not accepting that. So yeah, I'm actually trying to, through the reminder of this, I mean, I've got a Chad tat on my back, but I can't see it very much. Not a very good reminder. So this reminds me to focus more. And, you know, like today, for example, I've got a bunch of stuff I want to do. Don't really want to do it. It's mundane, boring stuff, nothing heroic or glorious at all, like we've all got. But just little things like that, personally, I found it helpful because, yeah, you're right. I remember back and I think if I can apply that sort of effort and determination, I can do better.
Yeah. You know, like people say, if you negatively speak about yourself, like if you say, oh, I'm useless, I'm rubbish, I'm terrible, and they say that's not a good motivator. That is for me. I say these things to myself all the time. Like I say to myself, get a grip, run further, go faster. You know, I say this to myself all the time, and that motivates me. But then I also like to praise myself internally when I do something good or successful or achieve something. So maybe that's a good idea, having a little wristband just to remind yourself that, you know, you were once a Royal Marine, you're still a Royal Marine in heart, and you can still achieve high-end stuff whenever you feel the energy to do it. Yeah,
for sure. It's you know, that, and I've caught myself feeling sorry for myself a lot of time. I don't want to get into psychology because it's not my field, right? But I think there's a time and a space and a place to allow a bit of self-pity and whatever for a short period. But we both know it very quickly comes a time where, especially if there's a reason you're feeling sorry for yourself, something not good has happened. So if anything, you need to pick yourself up and start fucking getting things done. And I don't always remember that because, you know, I'm not infallible. And, you know, when you've had an avalanche of crap and you think, well, actually things are pretty shit. I do feel sorry for myself, and I'm right to do that and so on. Fine, but it ain't helpful, mate. So yeah, this is just a bit of a very easy visual reminder. I don't have to sit and think and reflect and meditate or whatever. I look down and go, actually, come on, mate, just fucking don't have to do anything dramatic. Don't have to slap myself around the face, but just a little gentle nudge to go, right, enough's enough. You are better. Hold yourself to a higher standard. You can do better. Let's start doing a tiny bit better.
That's fantastic. That's a really good, I think that's a really good note to finish on right there. We can all do better. We can all go faster. We can all go further. We can all drive ourselves more, but then also appreciate and, you know, be happy with what you've got and how far you've come already. So
yeah, for sure. It's always a balance, though, isn't it? Difficult to get it right every day, all day.
Yeah, 100%. That's the main problem of life, isn't it? Is the balance.
As long as we're trying, eh?
Yeah. All right, Ross, it's been fantastic having you on to talk to. Is there any links or anything that you want to put out there for people to follow?
No, honestly, no. I mean, I have an Instagram page, but it honestly means nothing to me whether people follow or not. I find it fun and enjoyable. Sometimes I want to share little messages with people, but that's about it. It's of no consequence, to be honest. I've got no other agendas to push.
That's fantastic. You've been an excellent guest, very inspirational in the way that you've articulated yourself and the things that you've done and achieved. And I think the listeners will reminisce with that, or, you know, have a bit of rapport with that. So thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thanks very much. I appreciate you getting in touch and for the opportunity to chat with someone like you. It's really cool.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to Blue Pigment Podcast. If you want to become a patron of this show, please go to patreon.com/Blue Pigment. You will be helping me help the talent that I find along the way. Not only that, the podcast is an advocate for mental health and the positive message in which we want to send about mental health. So if you are a bit about that and you want to jump on board, then please become a patron at patreon.com/Blue Pigment. Would love to have you on board. And not only that, you'll get the chance to get some free stuff. I'll be giving another big giveaway soon. To find out what it is, go to patreon.com/Blue Pigment, become a patron, and get yourself some free stuff.
Sponsoring the podcast today are Airborne Fit. Airborne Fit is more than just a fitness brand. It represents true team spirit and the coming together of members to create that family feeling. With the support and encouragement of each other, members become motivated, remain disciplined, and work with pure grit and determination to achieve their goals. Airborne's Fit motto is fitter, faster, stronger together. Check out airbornefit.com or visit their Instagram at airbornefitofficial.
Blue Pigment Podcast is sponsored by Huscarl. Go to huscarl.co.uk and use the discount code BLUEPIGMENT for 15% off. Get yourself some t-shirts, stickers, baseball caps, hoodies, printouts, and many more products from Huscarl. Blue Pigment Podcast, sponsored by Huscarl.
The opinions or views expressed on this podcast are solely of my own or the guests and do not represent the opinions or views of anybody else or the Ministry of Defence.
Shish kebab, Shawshank Redemption, Chicago! You're out of